So recently I've had a few complaints about audio quality, and it actually had transpired that my my lavalier mic, as they call it, with this nice little muff, camera muff on top, which stops wind, not that kind of wind obviously, it had broken. So I've actually replaced it with a far bigger muff. Sorry, can I just say that it's not me passing wind? I've got to show you. It's actually the dog. He's honking. He's honking a duck. I don't know if you can see him down there. He's actually honking a duck. Zippy. He's honking a duck. All right. Hold on. Let me show you. Let me show you the duck, because that wasn't a great start. So hold on. It's a duck, a honking duck. There he is. Go on, take your duck. He's a bit suspicious at a honking duck. Anyway, I don't know how big a part he's going to play in this video, but he may honk throughout. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about my oversized camera muff, microphone muff, should I say, or even my formerly smaller muff. I'm actually going to talk about Nayef Aguerd. Before I do that, can I please point in the direction of Hammers Chat's raffle? Links in the description below. It's for a signed Jarrod Bowen shirt, a signed Prague programme, not signed by me, signed by Jarrod Bowen. And there's going to be additional prize as well. We're hoping it's a captain's armband signed by Jarrod Bowen. Link for the raffles in the description below. There's £5 per ticket. Thank you very much for the 2 winners on our previous raffle. They posted like comments and feedback, and one of us posted a picture of themselves. If you do win on our raffles, we really appreciate it if you post it on there, because then anyone remotely suspicious can see that it's all up front, and we don't even run the raffle ourselves. It's outsourced to a third party, so it's all above board and all up front. And yeah, anyway, if you buy 2 tickets for a £5, you get the third one free. Link is in the description below. Go and win yourself a shirt. Okay, Nayef Aguerd. This is a funny one, because it wasn't too long ago when we asked the club about Nayef Aguerd's future, and a couple of people had said he has a future at West Ham. Obviously, he's gone out and he's played really, really well at Real Sociedad. He didn't feel that he had any future under David Moyes. Familiar old story. He didn't like the football. He wanted to sample pastures new, so to speak. So he went out on loan. And certainly Julian Lopetegui did not see him as any part of his plans. But things have changed an awful lot since then, because we've got a new manager, and we seem to be, by and large, playing with 3 at the back. Yeah, granted, it will change, but it's understood that that is the idea going forward. So when we asked the club, what's going on with Nayef Aguerd? Are we going to recall him, or is he going to be sold? We were very much told, well, we're going to recall him. The manager wants to play, obviously Potter wants to play a back 3 next season, and he thinks Aguerd would fit really well into that system. There's not a lot of arguing with that. It was he suited to David Moyes' style of football? Basically playing as one of 2 centre-backs. I know Moyes sometimes would play with 3, but by and large, he would play with 2 centre-backs. No, he didn't. But it's a completely different, I think, set of circumstances if you're going to ask Aguerd to play on the left side of 3 central defenders in a team that's going to look to keep possession. You can absolutely understand that within those parameters, he's going to thrive. So it all made sense. Yes, we would want to recall Nayef Aguerd. Now, it's probably important to point out just how well that he'd done in La Liga, because he'd performed so well that both Barcelona and Real Madrid were rumoured to be interested in signing him. And it was one game in particular against, I think it was Barcelona. I think Sociedad might have had a 1-0 win, or it was a very, very close game, and he'd been pivotal. He'd sort of got man of the match or close to it, which apparently had alerted the big La Liga clubs to the fact that, hold on, this guy's good. This is a really, really good player. Maybe we'd be interested in signing him. Now, maybe it turns out that was perhaps a little bit of a step too far, and whilst he might not be going on to sign for Barcelona or Real Madrid or any of the massive clubs in Europe, he'd certainly got to a point where his reputation had been enhanced. So we paid, from Stade Rennais, we paid between £30 and £35 million for this player. David Moyes had wanted him for a long, long time, and I think after a while he got injured straight away, didn't he? Got injured in a friendly against Rangers, and it's fair to say we never really saw the best of him. So his value sort of depreciated, and by the time he was due to go out on loan, he went out on loan to Real Sociedad. I think West Ham were probably looking at it thinking, well, we'd be lucky to get 15 £20 million back for this defender. There'd also been a little period whereby it was certainly reported that he was giving more priority ahead of the African Cup of Nations to his country and representing Morocco. It would become all important to him, and he sort of wasn't concentrating on his West Ham stuff. Now, I don't know how true that is. It's just a report. It's just a rumour. But you certainly looked at it and you thought, OK, he is of depreciating value. Now, whilst he might not have earned himself a transfer to Barcelona or something like that, you certainly looking at him now and thinking, well, this is a 25, 30 million pound player again. You know, he looks a viable option. So it was totally believable that West Ham would want him back. However, a couple of days ago, ex-West Ham United employee, in fact it was yesterday, he did an update and he said that Aguerd's agent had met with representatives of West Ham and he had informed West Ham that he didn't want to stay at the London Stadium for next season. Now, this is really interesting because I think it creates an interesting dynamic, particularly if you have the new manager in Graham Potter, who's obviously going through the players and saying, I don't want him, I want him, I want him, I don't want him, I want him, I don't want him. One of the keeps was going to be Nayef Aguerd. So I think for him to say, I will keep him, and then, I don't know. I don't know who the agent had a meeting with, whether it was Potter, whether it's McCauley, whether it's Sullivan, whether it's Brady. I just don't know. But for the agent to come in and say, well, you may well want to keep him, but he's not staying, I think it's probably a bit of a kick in the nuts, really. Sorry, Zippy. He didn't like that kind of talk, did you? No, indeed. And I think because of that, it's probably something we're going to have to review. Look, let's get this absolutely straight. Nayef Aguerd is contracted to West Ham, absolutely contracted to West Ham. So if he gets told to turn up for pre-season training, he's going to have to turn up for pre-season training. And despite everything I said, you do hear that he's a nice guy. There's always nice reports. I don't think he's going to kick off. Not at any point. Do you know what? No, that wasn't true. I was going to say not at any point did I hear he didn't want to train. But I don't really believe him. Those reports, I don't believe. I think even when it was declared that he wanted to leave West Ham, I think he was still a committed member of the squad. I don't think he was a moment's trouble, irrespective of what anybody else was saying. But he's going to have to come back, and he's going to have to come back for pre-season training. It's really, really as simple as that. However, here's what's interesting. It's what came out from the club after that. So it was a case of, well, is this... And I don't know where ex-West Ham United employee had got his information from, but when you asked the club about it, is this true? You're sort of hoping it's not going to be. The club have confirmed it and said, yes, it's true. This is true. He wants to leave. And here's the button. It's a very, very big but. But we're not going to take a derisory amount of money for the player. Now, this is really, really interesting because this is when three separate stories from three separate sources all fit in together. Because there's also a story from someone else which suggests that actually Aguerd and his agent are trying to drive the price down. But all of them together, they sort of fit, which is Aguerd wants to leave West Ham. His agent's had a meeting with the club, and they're trying to drive the price down, but the club are saying, hold on, we're not going to have our pants pulled down over this. We're really not. If someone's going to buy him, they're going to have to pay a fair price. And I think Aguerd's team are going to have to get real on this because they're going to have to appreciate, that his value is appreciated, I guess, and that actually his loan to Real Sociedad has been a success, that actually it's worked out not only for him, but it's probably worked out in terms of, for West Ham, in terms of us increasing his value. Reading between the lines, and I don't know this is just me guessing off the back of that, actually there's no big club that want to come in and sign Aguerd, actually, and maybe, just maybe, it's Real Sociedad that want to sign him again for next season. Maybe, just maybe, they want him, but whilst there are a lot of clubs in Europe who might be able to afford £25, £30 million, possibly Real Sociedad are not one of them. I stand to be corrected on that if you know different, but maybe that's just a little bit rich for them. And quite possibly they're looking to try and drive the price down from West Ham. And I would understand it for Aguerd if what he's done is he's set his hearts on going back to the Liga, particularly with Real Sociedad. But it doesn't mean West Ham have to accept something on the cheap, and particularly not if we're trying to sell players to raise funds to buy new ones. I think it's already created a little bit of a problem for West Ham, and particularly created a problem for Graham Potter and Carl McCauley, who are, as we know, are basically learning on the job in terms of player recruitment. They already had to bring in more players than they probably wanted to in terms of next summer's squad overhaul. This just creates one additional problem. I bet he was looking at that defence and thinking, oh, do you know what? Irrespective of whether you like these players or you don't like them, he's probably looking at it and thinking, okay, well, I've got Stade there, I've got Kilman there, I've got Mavropanos there. Cresswell's going, but that's okay. We've got Aguerd. We can leave the central defence. Now, I'm being lazy with that because I do actually think we're looking for a central defender, but stay with me on this. My point is it's just created one additional problem. It's one more. He already have him. He's already looking. I think we've got to get in 2 fullbacks. We've got to get in at least 2 midfielders. Probably another winger. Definitely a striker or 2. There's, possibly a goalkeeper. You get the idea. Even if it's all of those players or 3 more or even 1 less or whatever it is. The situation with Aguerd is a problem that we really, really don't need. I think the club are quite right to do this. Basically, this is an inconvenience. If you want him, you're going to have to pay for him. It's as simple as that. But what we can't allow ourselves is to be bullied and to be battered down so as we go and accept a price that we're just not comfortable with. It's a bit of a shame. I would have liked to have seen him play, I guess, in a style of football which we expect Graham Potter to play next season. I know there's a lot of people who thought Nayef Aguerd wasn't suited to the Premier League. I wasn't one of them. I thought he probably was, but just not playing in that park the bus style. I think in a possession-based system where your centre-backs are able to get forward and maybe support the wing-backs, particularly the wide centre-backs anyway. I thought he'd be all right. I think he's a good player. I really do. And I'm a little bit disappointed that maybe won't get to see it. And I think he's certainly got the calibre that, as I say, just one position you don't have to worry about. So there you go. I think, but I think if you had to place a cheeky pound on it, whether Nayef Aguerd would be here next season, I think I'd probably bet that he won't be. And I think that's a shame.